All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our monthly roundtable. Before we get started, I wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're not going to have a roundtable in October online because of our live event that we're doing at the Pro Inspectors Convention. So, just to let anybody know, if you haven't registered, there's still a little time left. We've got about 85 people registered right now. And we have a room that's set up for 100. And so if you're going to be at the conference and you haven't registered and you want to be at the event, it's not too late, but next week it might be. It's looking very lively and very exciting. And then I also want to announce that our November roundtable is going to be micro-focused as a pricing workshop. And so for all of those inspectors, and I talk to a lot of you guys every month that are struggling, that are confused, that have just a little bit of hesitation on fees and pricing. I'm planning on the November 12th a special pricing workshop that's going to go through the whole lineal progression of developing fees, market research, understanding your expenses, and then looking at a couple of various projects and helping you come up with a viable fee that could be exciting for you and profitable for your company. So it's something that I've been working on for a couple of months, and I think it's something that could be very beneficial to everybody, whether you're an expert at creating your fees or whether you just want to have a little bit of positive reaffirmations. So look for that announcement to come out soon. I know our social media team is developing a special graphic that's just for the pricing workshop that we're going to do in November. So with that, I mean, what a huge group. Thank you, everybody, for taking time. I was thinking this morning, going, we don't get a lot of West Coast participation because of the 6 o'clock in the morning. And so seeing Jamie's shining face and probably his third cup of coffee is great to see everybody here. So thank you for spending the time this morning. And to anybody that has any questions or wants to bring up to the group.
Hey, Rob, got a quick question or just a comment.
Yeah, Billy.
On the thing. Hey, I'm a service disabled, better known small business. Because of the Marine Corps, me being retired, the services classified me and give me the permanent total classification of disability. So I can register as a service disabled, better known small business. Through the government, there's a lot of contracts out there that are available for inspections. And a lot of them is through the VA that does these type of inspections. The problem is the location of it. I'm not there. So they do some in like Boulder, Colorado, Oregon's another big place, Virginia, but they're kind of spotty all over the place. And I didn't know if we had a roster or location of people kind of where they were at in certain areas or something like that may be interested in subcontracting, because I'd have to write the contract, do all the work to submit the bid, put everything in, but actually perform the work. And then we work out a fee between me and that person to do that work for that. So I didn't know if that was something that you guys had a handle on, kind of know where everybody is, or is it just kind of, hey, you just got to get out and figure out where everybody is?
Well, great question. And this comes up quite a bit amongst the group, and I get calls all the time for people that have projects that are coast to coast and they don't want to travel. If you go to our website, ccpia.org. Now the dog was barking. But if you go to our website, Billy, and do find an inspector up at the top corner,
yep,
you can put the location in. And by doing that, you're going to find the inspector that's gone through all of the steps to be registered on our website. And
Okay,
that's different than the inspector that's just paid the fee and became a member. It's a small difference, but it's one more hurdle. And
okay.
so that could be a great opportunity for you to find an inspector that's somewhere else in the country. The other thing you could do is if you go onto one of our social media pages, the ones that are the most active in the industry are there, and you could very easily reach out and say on there and say, hey, I've got a project in upstate New York, and where I'm located here in Tennessee, I can't get there. Does anybody want to help me?
Okay.
And that would be a great way to build your network, especially with this federal work that you're getting, because it's a good opportunity, and they don't usually complain.
No, sir. All right, good info. Good info. Thanks, Rob.
Yep, no problem. No problem. And it's yeah, it's one of those things when you look at the size of the group that we have, and we're over 1,500 members now. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's all pretty exciting, and with that, there's a good opportunity to network across the field, and that's something we're going to hit when we're together in October. I know that. Anybody else have something? Thanks, Billy.
So I got to pipe up and ask a question.
Yeah, James.
Um, I hired a social media lady because technically I suck at social media. And she read my bio and she threw out there that I did OSHA inspections on my commercial inspections. And I told her, I go, you can't do that anymore. I says, because it's not an OSHA inspection at all. But that lends me to be able to do a certain type of inspection that I notice the things that are hinky that shouldn't be hinky. So she wants videos, and I was going to, because you do such good videos when you're talking about square, plumb, and level. Uh, if I do something like that,
Plumb level, square, and straight. I get paid $1 every time I say it.
all right. So if I do something like that, is that encroaching on you? Because I think of it as your trademark doing those.
No,
Okay.
no, it's James, have you sat through one of our 3-day classes yet?
Uh, I was at the Jersey last year, and that's what made me sign up.
Okay. So one of the things we talk about on the first day of the 3-day is a little bit of sales and marketing. And for most of us knuckle dragon apes that have been in the inspection business for a long time, most of us have a hard time linking words together and accenting the right syllables. And long before I became this position with the CCPIA, I would use articles that were created already, and while giving credit, would rebrand them as my blogs. I would take that information, credit the CCPA. So anything you want to do that maybe it's a video that we've already done, but you want to rebrand to yourself, that's great. Just say you're a CCPA member in the middle of it. And it's good. You're not going to encroach on anybody. The more social media that's out there, the more awareness the public has that commercial inspections are good, and then the better our entire group is, to be honest.
Yeah, I got the 2 videos that you guys say that you can get branded
Mhm.
with your own thing. I have gotten quite a bit of likes and people saying, "Hey, I saw that video," and they really like the videos. And as I'm walking into, and I hate to say this, but I'm just kind of walking in realty offices in
Yeah.
in the McCard. Um, so it's all going good, and I just got done finding out that I didn't have to spend all that time on the commercial inspector program. Uh, they kind of contacted me from Spectora and told me the mistakes that I was making because I couldn't get the report to work properly. So I'm happy with that. Everything's going really well, actually, right now.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing with social media and hiring somebody to help you is they want content and they want content all the time. And the good news is that is typically free to you other than what you've got to pay for that person, unless that person's family. And so sitting there with your phone in your hand, and making sure you're holding it right and doing all those things, and spending 35 to 45 seconds doing something shouldn't hurt and shouldn't be too much of a trouble for any of us.
Okay, thanks.
In fact, I have to laugh. Most of the ones I do, I'll grab my kid and say, okay, it's Friday afternoon. Let's go to happy hour. But on the way, we'll stop at 7 strip malls because I can find 7 things wrong, in every strip mall, and bing, bang, boom. And we've just created 20 videos that I can put in the hopper and give to the social media team to pull out sometime this year.
Okay.
Great, but thank you. That's great. Anybody else? Boy, it's quiet this morning. Yes, sir.
Hey, you remember a couple, that's 2 or 3
like
meetings.
4 or 5 inches that kind of
Round-
hang.
I'm sorry you got stepped on, Billy.
Hey, I was going to ask, say, if you remember we talked about the electrical outlets, the force tension on them, about 2 or 3 roundtables ago. One of the guys that brought it up, he was on the West Coast, I think, was doing that. I actually bought that piece of equipment. It's called a wood, and it's a piece of plastic. It's called a woodhead, WOODHEAD. And I was looking at the NFPA, I think it's the 99 or 98, whichever one that falls up underneath for the units that had to be done. So dentist offices and medical facilities and things like that. I know you'd mentioned that you might do some more research on that and put something together on that. I didn't know if that was on your plate or if that was something you forgot about.
It fell off my plate, Billy. So thank you. I just wrote it down.
I just did an FBA 99 inspection at a surgery center out here. I have that tool, and I have a circuit analyzer to evaluate the receptacles, and I have a special tester for the equipment.
And how are they finding you guys, to ask for you to do that, or are you suggesting it when they call?
I have a sales crew here for the company I work for. They have a salespeople that go out and get us jobs.
So they went to that specific owner of the building and said, "Are you doing an NFPA 99 force tension test on your receptacles? You need that."
It's not just that, but they have to have it done every year. As any hospitality place like this has to have it done every year. So she went to this one place, and the company they used to use is out of business.
Okay.
So she mentioned that we could do that, and since I have all the equipment, I just did it.
And for the sake of the group, and not to hold your feet to the fire, as an ancillary service, are you able to get more money for that?
Yes. Plus, I was only allowed to do it every Friday for the first 4 hours in the morning, because they close at 12, because they don't have any patients during that time. So that's the only time I'm allowed to do it. And I spent 23 hours doing it, including the report. Because you have to check the millivoltage, you got to check the amperage, you got to check every panel, every wire. You have to check all that stuff when you're in there. So you have to open the dead fronts, you have to go in there, you have to check the amperage loads, you have to put how much, then you have to put the schedule together. You got to put every impedance on every outlet has to be checked, all that. So you have to write up this report and papers that I have, forms that I made, create them in and send them a report. And I also, as an additive, I also did a fire exit map for them because theirs was old and hand drawn. So
that was 5 different weeks you had to visit the property.
yes.
Wow.
Because I only allowed 4 hours.
Yeah.
Doing the panels alone, because they had 6 panels, Took a while.
Yeah. Okay.
What kind of
So-
analyzer do you have? I'm sorry, Rob.
61, 164 ideal.
Not to be specific, but it was the 61 164 ideal.
Yes.
That's terrific. I mean, that's good information because I mean, for a lot of us, I mean, I'm so tickled. Has anybody taken the fire door course yet? Few of you have. I mean, I'm standing back going, I wish I was back in the field again some days between the fire door course, the accessibility. I mean, what I could have done, because I was doing a lot of buildings that had fire doors. I never even thought about that being an ancillary service that has to be done annually. And we just did a whole bunch of videos, and I bought the simplest of tools that cost $12 on Amazon for measuring gap spacing, and it doesn't take any time at all to do a fire door test.
Yeah, that fire door class was very, very helpful, Rob. Thanks for putting that together.
I didn't. Nick and Maggie wrote the course. Only thing I've done is we went out and produced a bunch of videos 2 weeks ago. They're not quite, I don't think they've been released yet. Just to enhance the course, but I'm going to present it out in Orlando in October. Not saying that's my class or my workshop's going to be a substitute, but it will set the stage for anybody that wants to do fire door examinations. I think it's an awesome opportunity for the key is recurring work. Every one of these buildings has to be re-inspected annually. And why not leave the job with a job already booked for next year? But so that goes with what Anthony and Billy were talking about with the force tensioning. And I think as we go along in this industry, I think we're going to find more and more opportunities for us to use the big thinking meat and not so much the brawn of that's a normal residential inspection requires and the nuances of client interactions. You know, these businesses have certain insurance requirements that need to be done annually, and we are positioned to be there for sure. But yeah, Billy and Anthony, I'll do more research on that and see if I can't get something out. And I promise this time I won't fall short.
I was just wondering about it, Rock. Said I bought the tool. I don't have that type of analyzer. I just had a small regular type of circuit analyzer. So that's something else that I'll have to go out and look into and just do some more research on that piece before I really start getting into it. But I did buy the tool. I thought it was pretty cool. It's a pretty simple tool though. For $100, it does what it's supposed to do. I found about 4 outlets in my house that needed to be changed out, and I didn't even know. You know, I just went in and started plugging them around, and said, okay, yeah, I can definitely work something out of this eventually. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring it back up. Like I said, I know we'd mentioned it before, but just wanted to just throw it back.
Tony just put a link to it in Granger for everybody if they want to look at the chat of where to find that tool.
Yeah.
I had to laugh years ago. I had a client that wanted me to do I was doing an energy audit on the property, and he wanted me to calculate how much energy each device in his house was using. And so I went on to Amazon and bought 5 tools that measure current output so that you could put that into his bill. And I just left him in his house for a week and then kept rotating. It took 6 months to do, but I mean, it's amazing where if you just listen to what your client needs, you can make money off of them.
Yeah, this is the circuit analyzer.
Yep.
I use. And this is that woodhead he was talking about.
Okay.
For tensioning on the outlets.
Perfect.
What the description that the other gentleman put in the thing is completely different than what the analyzer I have that analyzer that the gentleman has. It has a woodhead. But the link that's put in, that Tony, I think, put in is a different one. That's a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, I got that one test. So I used to work in the hospital before I did home inspections for 5 years. So we used to do tension testing with that same thing. And they would check for micro leakage, ground leakage. So it runs through an automatic series of tests.
Yes,
It checks everyone. And we used to document every single outlet.
Yep.
Throughout the whole medical center. That's really what they use and what they require when they do their evaluations every year. So I don't know if that's the actual requirement, but that's what we used to do in the hospital. And that
yes.
same
it is.
similar type of device.
Okay.
I would imagine for all these devices, there's 3 different ones you could buy that all do the same thing. And it's all about your comfort zone and your price point.
Yeah.
You know, when I'd have a new inspector come on board, they go, how much are tools? I said, anywhere between 2,000 and 50,000. You decide.
Yeah, you could spend half that just on a high definition thermal camera.
Isn't that the truth?
You need that.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say buy the cheapest tool the first year, and then every year reward yourself with a new present of attaboy or attagirl. You just made it. Now you get 1 new tool, not 2, you get 1. All right. Thank you, guys. Anything else this morning? We're here to solve the woes of the world.
I'll just kind of throw out a topic, something I'm working on this week and thinking about, looking to kind of step up our accessibility inspections a little bit. So we have it built into the software we're using, Spectora, to essentially spit out what looks like a checklist or something that you might have in the ASTM standard, which is all the questions and then the yes, no,
Yep.
not applicable, unknown. And that's about what we got going in there. And we embedded some of the illustrations. But anyway, what I'm wanting to do and thinking about is the way that lays out in the report. As the reader is reading it, you're kind of scrolling through these pages of that whole checklist and just seeing yes, no. It's a bit confusing. So creating separate defect comments within the template or the software when items within the accessibility checklist are not compliant. And part of thinking about doing that is for the cost to cure and trying to, at least in some cases, include those areas when you did your accessibility that are not compliant, trying to incorporate that into the cost to cure. So just a project I'm working on. Don't know how, if anyone else on the call here is doing accessibility and how you're presenting it, but I even reading through some ASTM sort of PCA style reports that include this. It seems as though some of the bigger companies out there, like an NV5, are just doing the checklist, and it's a little bit of work for the reader. So thinking about, maybe you go to a building and most things are compliant and they can see that in a nice checklist, but then the ones that are not sort of breaks away and has its own separate defect comments. Maybe the illustrations that CCPI has are within those, and just making it a little bit easier to just get right to it. What are the things that's not compliant with accessibility, and perhaps associating a cost with that and the cost to cure. So I don't know if that was a question or a just something I'm thinking about and working on, trying to.
Well, I think it's valuable, Jamie. The fire door course that was just produced, Nick also created a fire door report. And with fire doors, each door is its own report. Not the whole building is encompassed in door 1 or door 2 or whatever. Each door has to have its own file and its own report. And so that's kind of how if I was going to do accessibility, I would still use the section 17 of the ComSop, yes, no questions. But then if anything failed in its determination, just like you're saying, that would be a bubble out or a bullet out, and then that's where you could expand on that. Now, whether it's through images, through photos, through corroboration, and then because to come up with a C2C on accessibility, some of those could be cut and dry. Easy day. And then, but
the doorknobs are not graspable with the closed fist, right?
Right.
Like and then you have X amount of doors, and you could just put that in, and
yeah. Or something is, if you watch the videos that we just did with Lance, the squirt bottles for the soap are not permanently attached. So if you use a closed fist, it shoots across the room like you opened up you tried to grab a grape with a sledgehammer. Those are pretty simple things, but when it comes to adding ramps or readjusting ramps because of poor slope or adjusting that lip between the parking area because it's a barrier to accessibility, then those probably aren't as cut and dry, but they need to be, in my opinion, every deficiency is a separate thing.
Yeah.
As a bubble out. I think you're right on the right track with how you're designing it. That's how, I'm not a Spectora guy, but if I was writing a reporting system, I would envision each accessibility defect to stand on their own legs and call them their own thing.
Yeah. There's quite an expense there depending on which topic in that whole thing you're looking at. Some of those items could be pretty significant in terms of cost to cure. But the other, Rob, too, is thinking about all this is as we eased into offering accessibility, it's still new to us, new to me, and new to my crew of guys that we're trying to get up is providing more value to translate to we can charge more for it. So in California, they do these CASP inspections for ADA, which is similar. It's close to being the same thing, a little bit more involved, but we've brought in subcontractors on a job or two that they needed this CASP, which is just an ADA inspection. And, it's like $5,000 for 30,000 foot office building to do it. So anyway, that's kind of the goal here too, is to not necessarily charge $5,000 to do the accessibility inspection, but to get the price up and have there be value in it. So just envisioning that if our clients could just get to the point of a summary that has, say, 5 items, here's the 5 problems, and here's a ballpark, plus minus 20% cost to correct that. It's a significant line item and could be up there with the big 3, roof, HVAC, parking lot, if there's enough there to do it. And I don't know, maybe it's a bigger deal in some states versus others in terms of building owners and liability and all that, but in California it's a problem.
Well, the Americans with Disability Act is all encompassing, so it's everywhere. But even going beyond that, Jamie, and everybody else on the call, it does one more thing for us. And that's one more separator of why you're more proficient and more of an expert doing commercial inspections than the person that they called previously.
That's a great point, Rob. I was just on a proposal interview with a I suppose he was a realtor speaking on behalf of the client, and kind of a side note to all this, he was giving me a little grief that in our proposal there's a separate line item for accessibility that we would charge separately, and he's like, well, I'm used to this just being part of a he's calling it a PCA.
Yeah,
we ended up rolling it in, including it in the price, and just doing it. But I guess the point there was that here's a guy, a commercial real estate broker, that is just used to that being part of it. So to your point, I suppose if you don't offer it, they might not choose you just because you're not offering that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yep, that's
Jamie?
true, but it also could be, for those that might not be as proficient in commercial, but call themselves commercial. The hobbyist or the dabbler, when you're with that client, especially a converted client, a converted property, a property that might have been residential that's now commercial, or might have been commercial, but a really old commercial that doesn't have, that's been in the family for 5 generations, that when you go, and also I can provide you with, if you'd like, an accessibility inspection. They're going, what's that? And something as simple as that threshold between the entry door not being beveled on both sides or having greater than a 1/4 inch rise, that's a barrier to accessibility. That people don't think about, and again, that has to be used with a closed fist, every door handle. And our building, for all those, and I see a lot of friends on this call that have been in our building, not a single one of the doors in our building can be used with a closed fist. And our building's new-ish, but not a single door. I can't go to the restroom and use a closed fist. I can't open up the front door and use a closed fist because it has too narrow of gap. At least in my hands, and I don't, my hands are not, the size of Michael Jordan's hands. So I would assume I'm pretty average. So I mean, I think it's a valuable service, and I think it's going to evolve too, that we're going to think about, and there might be, to this order, 4 or 5 items within the standard accessibility that might have to be rolled into the normal ComSop, just as definitions to barrier to accessibility broadens. I can't speak to that, but I can just imagine, a version or 2 from now. We're at the 2022 version, and I'm going to tell you, we're in meetings right now about the 2025 version of the ComSop that might not include a better definition of what is a barrier to accessibility.
Yeah, just simply reporting whether or not there's a accessible restroom and whether or not there's handicap parking spots are something we were kind of putting in prior to doing the accessible. Yeah. Just how many handicap spots are there, and is there an accessible restroom?
Yeah, and if there's supposed to be 1 per 25, is that one van accessible? And if it's van accessible, is it the right width? I mean, all these things start popping through your mind. And then again, your wife starts looking at your spouse starts looking at you going, how come you're still inspecting on Sunday on the way to church? Because I can't turn it off.
Yeah. Big stuff though for our clients. I mean, if you're purchasing this building and you're going to get hit with having to do something like that, adding a van accessible spot or whatever, converting the restroom, it's a big expense.
Yep. We just did a 45,000 square foot office building 2 weeks ago on video, and not a single one of the accessible parking spots you could get to the building from. Every one of them had a barrier, whether it was a 1-inch gap or you had to spread across. I know I couldn't put a wheelchair across it without tumbling my wheelchair over. So yes, anybody? I heard something. So thank you, Jamie. Yeah, I think the ancillary services are certainly a way to not only provide a better service, to make yourself more valuable to your client, but to also provide you additional revenue streams. And I can tell you that we'll do fire door at the conference. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not questions about other topics that'll come up during the roundtable during the conference. But we're also going to have at the conference, for those that are attending, will be environmental assessments as well as infrared camera work on commercial. And to take what Billy and Anthony were talking about, with receptacle testing, a lot of buildings per insurance require annual infrared surveys of their electric panels. And that does not involve removing a dead front cover. That, if you've got a good enough camera, that doesn't even involve opening the door to the panel board. You can shoot right through the door on certain panels with certain pieces of equipment. So that is a great opportunity for you. I know I did a quick 1 week project for 35 grand on some hospitals 15 years ago. I couldn't imagine what that would cost today with inflation.
We did one of those this year, just panels only, thermal. It was a request of, I think their insurance. It was a coffee roaster building. In fact, if you've been to many gas stations or McDonald's, they're roasting and providing the beans. That building that I was in here in California, just went around and scanned them all. Yeah, we didn't do the dead fronts, but we did, open the door and.
Yeah, you do whatever you do right up to the point where you're safe, and it's just a spreadsheet. All they want to know if there's any hot spots, and that's it. So it's not tough. And our speaker comes from Teledyne, which is the owner of FLIR, and they're going to be providing this 2-hour session for us. And then they have another online course you can take that'll make yourself certified. And it's not an expensive course. I think it's under $200 to take this course. And so it's a great opportunity to add one more ancillary service to your offerings and social media content.
Side note on that, Rob, we made it a standard to include a thermal image of every panel below the inventory of the panels in our reports, just on a standard commercial inspection. We had always been doing that on home inspections.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's in your pocket.
A little bonus. Yeah.
It's in your pocket. I used to get aggravated when I was a franchisor and I listened to one of my franchisees go, and I charge $50 to do a carbon monoxide test. And then I'd have to go like this going, it's in your bag. It takes no effort. Say you do carbon monoxide testing. Don't charge for it. The one you don't charge for is the one that's going to have problems. So I'm right with you, Jamie. I'd be doing that. I'd do the same thing.
Charge $25 more on all your inspections and do it on all of them. There you go.
Yeah, and buy a better meter. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got something, Rob.
Please.
So there's been several different things. The first one is you were referencing ComSop version 25 coming out. So the identification, I know you're supposed to go through and kind of pick through which ones and put that in the proposal and the signed agreements and all that. Are you going in and identifying which ComSop you're using? Number one, this is the first question. Okay.
No. So if I was writing a proposal, the proposals that I write, because I have a lot of them up online, all I do is link with a hyperlink whatever the current ComSop is on our website, which is right there on the homepage.
Okay. Second one is I heard Jamie reference a couple times, if not three, about PCA versus actual inspection. So are you identifying what you're doing as a PCA, or are you calling it an inspection? Or
you can call it anything you'd like.
Okay.
Property condition assessment is not a trademarked word. So if your client is used to calling it a PCA, then call it a PCA. But at the end of the day, it's an inspection. Okay. The ASTM is not an inspection standard. It is a reporting standard.
Okay.
And throughout the industry, that's always been the nomenclature they've used. I know Lance has got his hand up, and so Lance, why don't you interject?
Hey, once Lance is done, I've got one more.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if you're going to say anything, because we do, just because I've got clients that ask for it specifically, but as Rob said, it's a reporting standard. And if you say you're going to do the PCA, 2018-15E or however that sets itself up, there is a very strict guideline on how your report's supposed to be put together. So don't say you're doing that if you're not going to provide the full thing, because there are some companies, especially large organizations or HOAs, that want that type of product. And if you don't give them the full thing, then you'll be in water treading, trying to figure out how to provide the whole thing. So there isn't much of a deviation between that reporting standard and really what we're doing with CCPA or how we're doing the in-person inspection. It's just that a true PCA also has a more robust forecasted cost to cure report always with it. It always has certain documentation you have to add to it. You can ask Jamie anytime someone asks for it. The report, it's an engineering report. It's about 52 pages more bloated than necessary. So I would just be careful saying you do PCA. If you do, great, but there's much more added to it than just inspect and put a report together.
Yeah. Yeah, if you spend time with Nick and ask him, I one time asked him the difference. He says, I don't care if you call it an inspection. I don't care if you call it, whatever you call it is what you called it. If you call it a property condition assessment or a property condition report, it's at the end of the day, it's an inspection. So your next question, please.
The other one was referenced to like putting a thermal, like you were just referencing the Teledyne. So in our state anyway, 400 amp and above, there's a special, like even a residential electrician isn't really allowed on the higher panels. So how are you doing? Like, I know you've got the courses and so forth for the commercial side with the electrical components in the panels. And I know you're not breaking that dead front off those or dropping them or anything. So you're just going through and you're documenting it more than anything instead of like, and then like, oh heck, I think Hawks was referencing it about a checkpoint or the checklist and just saying, yep, nope, yep, nope, nope, yep, and calling it good.
So our biggest fear, I mean, it should be everybody on this call's biggest fear is arc flash. Arc flash should petrify everybody. It petrifies electricians. And so that's a lot of the reasons why within the NEC NFPA 70, they say only qualified electricians should ever open up dead front panels, ever any dead front panel. That includes residential, and how a residential inspector still gets away with in most licensures saying you have to remove a dead front panel makes my head go like this, because you could arc flash a 100 amp or 200 amp panel. That aside, using a non-contact voltage detector before you touch any piece of metal in any electrical room or any panel is your first and sole line of defense. And so at a maximum, I'm not going to say minimum, at a maximum on a commercial inspection, the maximum I'll ever do is take that door and go like that. I'm never going to remove screws. I'm never going to do that. And so when Anthony does that, he's doing that under a completely different scope. And when he's doing that, he's accepting that risk to provide that ancillary service that is beyond that of the standard and beyond that of the safety. And as a generalist, even as a generalist doing an IR survey, all I'm going to do is open that door if that's the case and look at the condition inside the door cover, not the dead front cover, but the door cover. And that's the maximum I'll ever do. Jamie.
When I was digging it, so we've done one of these so far, the thermal only, and I was starting to look into subcontracting out an electrician to come pull the dead fronts, because that actually, when I started digging into it, that's really what, in that case, what was needed to subcontract that out. So I think if you start getting into these and you're doing it specifically for that, find an electrician that's qualified to do that, get their fee. Maybe you tack on a percentage to their fee, and there you go. But we just weren't able to pull it together that quick for that job. But have them do it and stand back, and you're just taking the thermal image.
I know for mine, it was 5,500 panels in 14 buildings. And they didn't, and in our scope, it was not to remove a single dead, because it was switchgear as well in the building, and it was not removing any dead front panels. And half of them, we didn't even unlock the doors, because I had rented a $50,000 flare for the week. And so it was strong enough to shoot through the doors. So every job, you find out what the scope is. I can tell you that before you introduce yourself to any of these, whether it's accessibility, whether it's IR testing, whether it's fire door, make sure you have a good proposal, but also a thorough agreement. Because, and we do have many samples of those agreements available on our website for you to use.
Yeah, I have a electrical background. That's why I'm allowed to do that. And I work for a general contractor, so we have different trades here. And we have an attorney that looks at every contract or proposal I send out before we even send it out. So
yeah. The whole idea is cover your assets on everything you do. You gotta be safe. These are good conversations today. Thank you. Next contestant.
hey, if anybody wants a copy of the blank NFPA 99 forms that I have, just email me and I'll send them to you.
What's your email?
aclate@crmservices.us.
Anthony, is it okay if I put your email in my write-up? Then I'll have it in there for everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
No problem. And I think, Anthony, you're going to be at the Roundtable, correct? Yeah, terrific. So I know the current schedule of the Roundtable is going to give a little bit of time for mingle and chat. It's going to be from 5:30 to 7:30. So don't be afraid. I know there's a session that ends. There's a session from 3 to 5. So if you did a quick hygiene break and then ran over to the room, we can start checking everybody in as soon as you're ready. So for all those going to be at the Pro Convention, then get there quickly, and you'll be set. Lance, you want to talk a little bit about the Roundtable since you're on?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay? I'm in the car and I don't have a speaker.
Perfect.
Okay. Yeah, so like Rob said, we're going to get everybody checked in. Of course, there's going to be a meal. However, what my hope is we're actually going to bring up 4 or 5, including myself, industry individuals who have been doing commercial for various time frames from various backgrounds. I want it to be kind of spread out over the United States, maybe Canada, so you get an idea how everybody is doing commercial right now. And our roundtable is really going to execute 2 different things. We're going to be trying to reach out to those who are making the transition, and then also those who maybe have been doing it for a while but are stuck. You're trying to figure out how you're going to grow. You're trying to figure out what your future is going to look like, because I wholeheartedly believe over the next 5 years, commercial inspections, whatever you want to call them, are going to be the thing that most home inspectors are going to try and do. I think home inspections as we know it is going to just be and feel different in the next several years. And being prepared for commercial is going to be a huge asset to you. But the problem with commercial is you are not going to make a living sitting around twiddling your thumbs waiting for an agent to call you and execute a due diligence inspection on a purchase. I do those maybe once a week, but it's not like residential, right? You're not going to have 20 a week from commercial because someone's buying and selling. So my goal in the roundtable, especially through these professionals, is to expand your mind and your business palette on how you're going to find commercial work. Because 90% of my commercial work isn't even people buying and selling. It's maintenance inspections, it's safety, it's ADA, it's contracts that I've created. I know what I get to make quarterly off some people. So it's a completely different business plan. So that's going to be our hope and goal. It's not going to be where it's kind of like this, where we just sit up there and wait around for a lot of questions. It will be like that, but we're going to try to gear it as much as we can to your business growth and piggyback off the whole purpose of the convention in general. So hopefully that was helpful.
Yep. Yep. And this session will be right after our environmental session. So that'll be from the environmental session will be from 3 to 5. And then the roundtable will be directly after that at 5:30. I don't know the room. I don't know the placement. Good luck. Try to find us. But I do know that that right now we're set up for 100 and we've got about 85 registered. So as I said earlier, make sure you register. Knowing everything, I imagine if there is a bar, it'll be a cash bar. Internachi typically will never do an open bar. So if there is a bar, make sure you have a couple of bucks in your pocket. I don't know what the rest of the format is. That's on the education team. Thanks, Lance.
You're welcome.
Anything else, guys?
Well, I was going to say the last 10 minutes, I'm happy to punt this out there. Can anyone regale us with a story of how you came about finding a great commercial property inspection? Like, was it something where someone just called you out of the blue asking for something you didn't know you could do until you looked it up and realized you could, or was that simple? Or did somebody find you online and bring you a big contract or anything like that? Anyone have a story they want to share regarding that? I have 100 of them, but I don't want to share. I want to see what everyone else kind of comes up with. I always find that to be interesting and encouraging when someone else is able to say, yeah, I got this great inspection because of this, or I was getting coffee and talked to the manager and boom, got an inspection out of it. Anybody want to add anything in the last few minutes with that?
Lance, I won't say that I've had an inspection, but I will say that the lead up to it and the people that I've gone out and met being proactive in the area. I have meetings now with commercial lenders, commercial bankers. I have meetings with apartment officials, apartment building complex managers. I actually have meetings with the city school boards. And because of the school systems here, they had to have inspections as well. And in Tennessee, some of our schools are not up to par and they're in the news a lot and stuff like that. So I offer my services out there. And I just got an email from the city schools of Maryville here where I live at. They said, we use inspection companies, but we use them outside of the area. Now that you're local and we know someone here, we can start utilizing you. We can start phasing you in. So to me, that's not an inspection, but it's a good step and forward of success toward me going and out and getting what I need to get good and started in the inspection business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to work at it, right? Anybody that's ever sat in one of my classes, I usually pick on somebody in the front row and ask them for a $5 bill because they're never thinking about giving me a $5 bill. But if you don't go out and ask for that $5 bill, you're never going to get it. So Billy, to your point, if you don't go out and hustle and ask somebody for work, they're not thinking about you. This is not Dairy Queen where they drive down the road and see the kiss and go, I think I want an ice cream cone. No, You gotta let the world know, and you gotta scream it from the top of a roof that this is what you do. So you're absolutely right.
One
Yeah,
of the things
Jamie.
I found.
I'll throw it
Oh,
out.
go
I mean, before I share a couple of mine, Lance, we all want to know, where did you get the Amazon job and how much did you charge?
So you guys are going to be vastly.
That was yesterday, right, Lance?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think I only charged like 35 for that because all they wanted was they wanted a simple walkthrough. So Amazon doesn't own their own buildings; they rent them all from a big corporation nationally, and so quarterly they have to have at least one of their buildings assessed, as they call it, and it's just walk around, kick things, take pictures. It's nothing big. Really, that 3,500 was so I could spend 3 hours on the roof collecting data. Pretty much what it is. And they have a system that collects all that information, but it was not pulling up information. So I was forced to go up on the roof. And I called the company and said, well, you're about to get charged about $1,500 more because now I got to go collect all these data. They're like, that's fine. Just send it over to us. So I got that from a national due diligence company. I've got 2 of them I work with. And what happened, what I usually do is, they'll call me once a month, say they have these projects. Do I want to take any of them locally or outside of the state? And this just happened to be one of them. And the reason I took it is because I knew Amazon doesn't own their property. They have a property owner, and I have direct contact now with the manager who runs all the properties for LDF, who owns their buildings. So now I am naturally doing sales with that person so I can get some more inspections. So that's where that came from.
Very cool.
CVS is the same way. A lot of companies are that have multiple places. They'll have a secondary company that owns all the buildings, and they get inspected almost annually.
Yeah, we got asked on Walgreens a year or 2 ago, and a few 500,000 square foot. Didn't get those, but well, I'll just start out real quick since I've received some harassment in the past regarding my pay-per-click Google ads and how much I spend a month on those. We got a large job for a tribal reservation. We just finished $33,000 on that one, and it was residential. Inspecting all their properties. There was a fire station and some other things on it, but all the buildings. They have another batch for us coming up. Should be another set, same fee. And then recently, same with Google Ads, connecting with some property managers that responsible for hundreds of apartment buildings. We're going to be doing some. California has this deck balcony inspection that Rob had just put up an article regarding. It's going to be something like $500,000 for to go through and look at all these on all the buildings, assuming we get them all. But anyway, interesting that it seems as though in the last 2 years, our highest dollar jobs, and frankly, most of our jobs that are coming through are coming from a pay-per-click Google ad. So that's our lazy way of doing it. So we don't have to actually go out and get these jobs. We just, they call.
Speaking of balconies,
it's a lot of money we're spending every month on those ads.
Yeah, but you know what? If that brings you work and you're net ahead, it's well worth it, and you didn't have to hire an employee to do that. So, to balcony conversation, Nick's calculation to me a few months ago was he thinks balcony inspections between California and Florida could be anywhere between $50 and $100 million a year worth of inspections. So Brian Hill on the call had said that becoming a code certified inspector and doing apartment buildings for the municipalities because they don't have the staff to keep up with that type of inspection has been a great opportunity for him. Lance, your hand is up again.
Yeah, I wanted to see what Curtis had to say. He was about to say something. We got off on another topic. He said he had a few things to add.
Yeah, I was gonna say and this is kind of low hanging fruit, but it's easy and it's free. But where I am, the counties won't do business with you unless you're a registered vendor. And so I registered as a vendor in the counties, and I was the only commercial inspector as a vendor. And so, very shortly after that, I got a building that one of the counties needed to buy, and they needed an inspection from, and they could only use, and they actually wrote in their specs, because I got to write the spec, that it had to be a CCPIA certified inspector. And so it worked out really well for me. I hate to put that out there because I don't want a bunch of people now jumping on my counties, but signing up as a vendor in some counties around you may be an easy way to get some of those calls that and if they, if you get the right what the specifications are for you as a commercial inspector, then they can say, well, it has to be a certified CCPIA inspector. And so you automatically put yourself in a form where you can run that show.
Yeah, that's a great point, Curtis. It kind of being you've heard me say it before, being the first one in, you get to call dibs, and you've got the best dibs out there right now. Tony was just saying on the chat that New York is mandating parapet inspections. And Chicago did the same thing a few years ago. Yeah, because there's so many parapet walls, no longer plumb level, square and straight, and can potentially fall on somebody's head, and so or have signs mounted on them or canopies mounted on them. So that's a great opportunity. My only caution I would ever have is if they're asking for engineering, make sure you have an engineer in your pocket. But if they just want you to do visual observations, plumb level, square and straight. I've made $5 so far on this call by just saying plumb level, square and straight. So this has been good for me. What are you able to charge for those, Tony?
Haven't done them yet. Just came to my attention. I just found this out about a month ago. But reading the rules, basically anyone from a property manager to a handyman is allowed to do them as long as they follow the protocol. And it's just plumb level, square. Basically, there's a certain rule of thumb. I think greater than an eighth out. And then you have to make the recommendation for the homeowner to repair or property owner. I think they're giving them 60 or 90 days to cure if there is a problem, but anybody can do them. So I got to figure out, I think it's a great opportunity. Maybe other big cities have the same thing going on. So I just got to figure out how to latch onto it.
Yeah. Do you given New York's being New York, do you have to go into the boroughs and go to the borough managers or borough presidents or whatever they are and start, making sure they know your name?
That's it. That's how it works down there.
Is it Rocky? Yeah. Ask the question about, is anybody using Inspector Media on the advertising side? Anybody using that other branch as a help? I know they've been wildly successful for years on the residential side. I'd be very curious to see how they're doing branching out on the commercial side.
Thank you.
Well, looks like you're the pioneer.
We'll try it, brother. We'll try.
Yeah. Yeah. The trouble with being pioneer, sometimes you get arrows in your front or your back, depending on how fast you're moving. But let us know. I'd love to see. They're very good at what they do, and Nick and his team, and through his late son's guidance, has really built that into a very good opportunity. And I'd like to see how they can change that communication dynamic to help on the commercial side, because it does, as you all know on the call, use a different muscle. And right. So I love it. I love in a month or two after you burn through it a little bit to report back to us and see how it's doing.
I definitely will. I just barely started, or a couple of days ago, just paid into it and working on seeing how that's gonna work out. Just doing the overboarding stuff to see also if they're gonna be able to merge both of them, the commercial side of it as well. So I'll let you know.
That'd be helpful. I don't know enough. I know a lot about them, but I don't know enough about their commercial side. I should probably reach out to them and do that. And I promise I will.
Thank you.
Anything else this morning? I know we're at the hour, but I mean, I'm yours if you need me.
Yes,
Need this group.
sorry. Out in South Carolina, you can only do commercials if you work for a contractor, architect, or engineer. How do we go about trying to get that changed here? Because I have my South Carolina home inspection license, but they don't allow you to do commercial unless you work for those three.
Sure, and they've written it pretty tight. The way that can be changed is on the grassroots local level. You're gonna want to, Anthony, get other home inspectors that you feel are being excluded from entering the marketplace and proving to the licensing board of South Carolina that you have the knowledge base, you have the education base, and you have the professional background to be able to provide commercial. So if you can get that introduction, then that means that an association like us can come in and then present our credentialing
Now,
and standards.
Can Nick help with that?
Yes, but he can only help with it if the ball's already, he's not going to help. I'm not going to speak for him, but in other states, he's talked about this. He's not going to help build the snowman, but he'll bring the top hat and the carrot and make sure the snowman looks good. But it needs to get started. Now, I've reached out to North Carolina because North Carolina was the same way, and I've got them to say in writing that as long as you're a licensed residential inspector, you can do North Carolina commercial inspections. And they're the only ones I've gotten to say that in writing of the other 37 states that have licensure. So at least we've got that going on. So there is that precedent, Anthony, that North Carolina says something good. So why can't South Carolina say something good? Because there's a little bit of symmetry between the two states.
Rob, I got a dumb question, of course. Anyway, so Anthony, like in your state, can you just sit for the contractor exam and have that and then put that as an umbrella under your commercial company?
I could, yes. I could.
Okay.
But I work for a general contractor now, so.
Oh, I got you. All right.
Yeah, he absolutely could. Or you make or to that order, David, you create a synergistic relationship with the general contractor, and you go out, you do the work, and they sign the paper. People do that all the time. I know in Florida where they require a modified 4-point inspection on commercial, that an engineer has to sign those. Well, a lot of commercial inspectors in Florida will partner with an engineering firm, and you do all the heavy lifting, and they do all the pen and paper. But yeah, Anthony, I know that conversation has come up even in the opposite side in other states where they say, okay, well, we want to start excluding people. Why don't we license? And make commercial inspections not as broadly defined, but let's micro focus it and to that order, it's again, we don't have the resources yet as an association to drive that bus, but we'll certainly give you the resources to help you. Anything else, gang? So again, we're not going to have a call in October. In November, we're going to do the pricing workshop as our complete as our roundtable. I'll leave the 12th open for conversation. It's not going to be a death by PowerPoint. It's going to be a very give and take event. I'm planning on 2 hours for that. Just so you know. But the social media team will have something out on that, I would think, very, very soon. Register for the for the conference. If you're going to be there, make sure you're at the roundtable. Other than that, thank you everybody for taking the time on this Tuesday morning. It certainly is appreciated, and I hope this continues to be of value because it's great to hear and see from so many superior inspectors across the country.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Rob.
Rob.
Thank you all.
Thank you very
See you in
much.
Orlando.
Thanks, Rob.
See y'all soon.